Hi, I'm Jason Barnard. I'm the CEO and founder of Kalicube. We're a premium digital marketing agency helping people with their personal brands. I've just been talking to Prosper, and on the show, we talk about personal brand and brand in a world of search and AI, how you can take control and how you can seize the opportunities if you're an early adopter. Happy to see you there.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your premier destination for exclusive insights from industry leaders and innovators. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. And today, we've got a guest whose journey is as diverse as it is inspiring. Now, Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much, Prosper. I'm in the south of France. It's sunny and life is good.
Absolutely. Well, France and Paris is the land of love, and obviously everything else that comes along with it, arts, music. So it's
it's a great place to live. Lovely people, lovely food, lovely weather down here in the south. I'm happy. Oh, and I still play music. We'll be talking about that later on, part of my journey. And yes. I still play music, play the double bass and sing songs in the jazz club, which is right across the road.
Absolutely. You know what I'm really jealous about there, Jason? You see, I'm in Melbourne and we can never talk about the weather because the weather changes drastically so much. And I think people in the far north in Queensland are actually, as we speak, experiencing a cyclone. So that's Australia for you, the land of, it's a lucky country, they say. So yeah, you should enjoy wherever you are right now. And for those that are tuning in right now, thank you so much for choosing the Online Prosperity Show, for being the place where you want to learn and grow. Now, our guest today started off, yes, he was talking about music. So he was serenading audiences with his double bass. And now he's gone on to master the digital landscape. And as you will notice, Jason has worn many hats, from musician, voice actor, and now CEO of Kalicube, a trailblazing digital branding agency. And we're not just talking any kind of branding where we're putting a logo onto your website or things of that nature, but we're going to be talking a whole lot about personal branding and who Google says you are. So it's going to be a fun episode for those that are maybe getting started in business, or those that are really well advanced in business, because as you will notice, your personal brand is what people say when you're literally not in the room and they're scrolling and searching on the internet. And what does Google say you are? So it's one of those things that we really need to be very, very careful about. Now, Jason, I could go on and talk about things I'm not even qualified about. When I was contemplating this episode, I was like, should I call this From Punk to Pixels? Because that's the journey that you you have. Tell us about the days of the barking dogs.
Yeah, it was a great start in my professional career, is playing punk folk double bass in the streets of France. And then we moved up to playing gigs in bars, and then we moved up to concert halls and festivals, and we played alongside Bob Dylan, for example. So we went from begging in the street to playing with huge international stars like Bob Dylan. And it was really, really fun. And we made money. We actually made a living playing punk folk music live in front of audiences, traveling around Europe.
Oh, that is something else. And congratulations. I mean, obviously, there's people like Ed Sheeran. They also started on the street and then ended up, playing really live Wembley stadiums and things of that nature. And that's sort of the path that you guys did. But Bob Dylan, that's really, really close to real celebrity right there. So, yeah we should
I should be proud. I am very proud. We made 4 music albums, sold 40,000, played in front of, well over 100,000 people in the time we played. It was a success and it was a lot of fun. And then at the end of that particular career, I segued into making cartoon TV series for kids. And that once again started from nothing, built it up, and ended up making a TV series with ITV International, Radio Canada, playing on Playhouse Disney in 25 countries.
Fantastic. But I'm still a little bit hung up on the band name, the Barking Dogs. You know, is that the reason why Baha Men sang that song, Who Let the Dogs Out? Because you guys were really tearing the towns up.
Possibly. That would be a lovely story if it were true. The Barking Dogs was a fun name for a band. And I've since discovered there are multiple bands with the same name. And that immediately plays into this, which is how do you control what Google says about you and what AI like ChatGPT says about you? And that problem of ambiguity is huge, because how does Google or the AI, ChatGPT, understand which of the 4 bands who are called the Barking Dogs is mine? Which of the albums we recorded, which of the songs, which are the right photos for us and not the other bands with exactly the same name? And for a person, it's even worse. Jason Barnard is relatively not so common, and yet there are well over 3,000 Jason Barnards in the world. How on earth does Google understand this Jason Barnard is different from the one who's a CEO of a company in Canada, is different from the podcaster in the UK, is different from the circus clown in South Africa?
Right. And also, you know, while looking up the Barking Dogs, there's pictures of a literal barking dog, and AI is not going to be able to differentiate all of that. And you start receiving messages from vet people or from dog trainers saying, how to make your dog bark less, you know, or not bark at strangers or people that come to your door, and things like that.
100%. And with company names, it's a similar problem. You give your company a name that could mean something else. Yellow Door is one I use a lot as an example. How does AI or Google understand that you don't mean a yellow door, you mean the company Yellow Door? So from our perspective, number one, we need to think about how we name our companies. We can't choose how we're named ourselves, although we can actually change our name if we want to. And Kalicube offers those services. If you choose to rebrand yourself, add a middle initial. That will immediately reduce the ambiguity. We had a client, Olga Zarechnya, who changed her name to Olga Zar, and we rebranded her online. So what we then do is make sure that your digital footprint is consistent so that Google and AI, and indeed your human audience, understand your new name, get used to your new name, relate to your new name. And it's up to you. And that's, I think, kind of the point I was trying to make initially is we often, or I find people sit back and say, well, Google's going to figure it out. ChatGPT will figure it out. It's not my responsibility. I would argue it is your responsibility, and it's an existential question. How Google and AI understand and represent you, what they say about you, as you said, when you're not in the room, when somebody who might want to work with you is talking to ChatGPT or to Google, what do those machines say about you? Make sure it's what you would say about yourself. And that's what we do at Kalicube. And for me, that's an existential, fundamental question for all of humankind.
Absolutely. I love that so much, because so many people think the information that you type into Google is just, there's people sitting behind. I want you to think like the Wizard of Oz, or like some sort of exchange where people are just going, oh, this person is looking for barking dogs, let me connect them with these photos and things of that nature. No, all that information actually comes from our websites and comes from our, our inputs into the internet, and then Google then just puts it all together and says, this looks nice and neatly packaged, maybe let me put it across there so that people can find it. And it's not.
And 100%. And you mentioned websites. Number one is most people don't have a personal website. So Google and AI have no reference point. Number two is people who do have a website think that Google and AI are just going to believe whatever they say, and they don't. what they will do is look at what you have on your website and then go around the web and see if everybody else agrees with that. And if they do, your brand message is represented correctly by those machines when they're talking to your audience when you're not in the room. So you need multiple things. Number one is build a website for yourself to state exactly the facts about you, your brand narrative, what you want to be known for, how you want to be understood, what you want these machines to say about when you're not in the room, and then make sure that all of your digital footprint, everything you write, everything anybody else writes, corroborates what it is you're saying on that website that you have, which we call at Kalicube the entity home.
Absolutely. I quite like that, because so many people, they start these businesses, and just because the people in their area sort of know about what they do, they think that's what everybody else says. But there's a whole slew of other things that need to happen behind the scenes, all those links that come from reputable sources that Google takes as a shorthand to say, hey, if this audience is saying this about this person, then it must be legit, and then start to create somewhat of a use case on that. But what people don't quite realize as well, Jason, is Google lied to us. I don't know if you concur with this statement, because do you know in actual fact how much of the internet they have up until today managed to index?
No, but you're going to tell me.
Fantastic. But we could play a game. How much do you think they've managed to index, knowing what you know about how the internet works and things of that nature?
20%.
That's a fair guess, but they've only managed to do 5%.
Wow. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So the world has been running on just 5% of information for like the last, say, decade or so, or maybe 20 years since Google has been on. Now, with the advent of AI, which can index a website immediately, what does that present for the information stream that we're now in the work that you're doing, Jason?
Well, what AI is doing is reducing the amount of information that they're using. So if we look at ChatGPT, its initial launch was simply the websites and the information it had been trained on. It could only answer from its existing knowledge, which was fixed. And now they've had search results. So what it will then do, as you rightly said, is go through the search results, summarize them using its previous knowledge to help it to summarize. One of the problems it has is fact checking, knowing if something is true or not. And ChatGPT right now struggles with that. But that brings me to the fact that all of these AI, all of the search engines function on the same three technologies. The large language model chatbot like ChatGPT started as, search results like Bing or Google, and a knowledge graph, which is a machine readable encyclopedia. So a knowledge graph would be the Wikipedia for a machine so that it can fact check. But Wikipedia is 6 million articles, and Google's knowledge graph, its machine readable encyclopedia, is 50 billion.
Yeah.
So what we have is Google search plus Google AI plus Google's knowledge graph machine readable encyclopedia mixed together bring what Google are launching in America right now, Google Learn About, which is ChatGPT on steroids. It's the ChatGPT killer. And when you ask it a question, it gives you the answer, it gives you context, it gives you follow-up questions, and it gives you the different aspects and ideas about where you might want to research next. So I would now start to say we're moving from search to research. And when the machine controls the research or the conversation they're having with the person, you as a business leader or a business owner need to be even more in control than you were before. And that website and digital footprint are the foundation for all three of the technologies ChatGPT, Google, and Microsoft are using: search results, large language model chatbot, and knowledge graph. And your digital footprint defines how those three technologies interact and what these machines are saying about you or your company when you're not in the room.
Jason, I don't know if you know, I've read about you being on a tropical island somewhere,
Yes.
relaxing and having fun. Do you know what I mean? You know, you could have just stayed there, because now the world is gonna get loud, it's gonna get noisy, and things of that nature. I was just happy being an internet explorer. You know, that those days were easy. You know, I could just have one website to go to, and that was easy. You know.
Yeah, well, I moved to Mauritius, which is just off Madagascar in the Indian Ocean, in the year 2000 with the cartoon characters that we created with my ex-wife,
Right.
called Boowa and Kuala. So anyone wants to go and look that up, BOOWAKWALA. And we created cartoons sitting on the beach under a palm tree and lived there for 13 years. It was idyllic, it was delightful, and we made these cartoons with ITV International, played on Playhouse Disney, whilst living a dream life in a tropical island under the coconut trees, sitting on the beach. Perfect.
I would so want that life any other day, instead of having to sleep with one eye open these days, just trying to figure out what's next in the ChatGPT universe and what other tools have been designed that could take my job away. Like,
right. Well, I actually like both. I really enjoyed being a cartoon maker, and I did the voiceover for the cartoons. I wrote the songs, I sung the songs, I played the music. I really enjoyed it. Creative, delightful. I did big deals with big corporations for this worldwide global cartoon series. The website delivered 1 billion pages in 2007.
Wow.
That's competing with the BBC. That's competing with PBS. That's competing with Disney online. That was huge. And I loved it. And right now, what I love the most about what I'm doing is I'm looking into the brains of Google's algorithms and AI like ChatGPT, Siri, Alexa, and so on and so forth, and understanding how they think and understanding how I can change their perception of the world. And being able to do that is, I find it a lot of fun, but it's also very, 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 very powerful. And once again, it's an existential question. And I think I'm doing something fundamentally good in that I'm giving people, or allowing people, to take back control from the machines about how they are represented, what these machines say about them when they're not in the room. And here, if you look, you can download the free guides, kalicube.com, kalicube.com/guides, and you can do it for free. We share how we do it for free. And where we make our business is by helping people who understand that their time is valuable and that they want us to do it for them so that they can get on with running their business.
Absolutely, because as we were talking earlier on, the personal brand has really taken over. If you look at, Elon Musk and Tesla, Elon Musk will probably have 4 or more millions of followers just on his personal brand alone. And he can move from different industry to different industry, and his following follows him. But when people follow a company brand, they just sort of stuck to that particular business and whatever produce that they have. And, it's one of those things. Can you maybe speak to that and how people are literally leveraging the clout that they now have as a personal brand than they would as a company brand?
100%. I'm actually the walking, talking epitome of this. My personal brand drives 80% of Kalicube's business. People talk to me, and what I'm saying and my personality and who I am resonates with them. And they come to do business with Jason Barnard, guy in a red shirt. Kalicube is great, and the team Kalicube is amazing. And when people work with us, they're working with the people on Team Kalicube. They're working with Elisa, who does the production. They're working with Dini, who is the client-facing client support. They're actually working with the people. So Kalicube is a concept, and it's a lovely concept, and it's friendly, and it's delightful, but it doesn't have the personality or the emotional attachment that I would have, or Elisa would have, or Deanie would have. And you talked about pivoting. And that's actually how I got into this particular niche. Because when I stopped the cartoons and moved back to France, if you searched on Google, it said Jason Barnard is the voiceover artist in cartoons, and he played the role of the blue dog. And I was looking to pivot into digital marketing at the time. And my realization was that I was leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table, because after the meeting with a potential client, they would Google me. So the meeting would go brilliantly. The person would say, brilliant, I really want to work with you. This is absolutely perfect. Jason, you obviously know what you're talking about. I walk out of the room, they would Google me, and they would say, but he's a voiceover artist, not a digital marketer. And then they wouldn't sign the deal. So I went and figured out how I could get Google to change its perception of me, so that when you searched my name, it said Jason Barnard is an authoritative, credible digital marketer.
Maybe
so I pivoted my career by pivoting Google's perception of me and what it was saying about me as I walked out of the room from a meeting.
Now, Jason, you would understand this. I don't know if it's the same in the cultures that you've been around or things of that nature. Here in Australia, we have what's called tall poppy syndrome, where people don't necessarily want to talk about themselves or brag about the things that they have done and things of that nature. And I find that it really presents some sort of resistance to people wanting to put, their message and their stories out there. They would rather have other people brag about them or talk about them. And I feel like not a lot of people will talk about your business or your story or your message as much as you would personally do it yourself. Now, you mentioned that you were losing jobs because of the perception that Google had for you. What sort of steps did you take now to start drifting and changing that perception? Because I think a lot of people would want to know that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, once again, the guides explain all of this in detail. I'll tell you the really quick 1-minute story. Create your own website. Tell your own story. Make sure that everything around the web corroborates the story you're telling on your website. Link from your website to every resource that corroborates what it is you're saying on your website and back from that resource to your website, and the machine will understand. And then, as you said, you don't need to shout your own glory to the skies, because Google and ChatGPT will do it for you. And if you look at Google and ChatGPT, they're the biggest influencers in the world. If you've got somebody on YouTube with 1 million followers, they're a huge influencer. But ChatGPT and Google are having billions and billions of niche conversation with billions of people every single day. And the billions of people talking to ChatGPT and Google use them because they trust them. So ChatGPT and Google are giving advice, recommendations about what you should do and the best solution to your problem. So from that perspective, you want to make sure that these huge, huge influencers say the right thing about you when they're recommending the best solution to their users when you're not in the room. Build your own website, give your version of the story, make sure everything around your digital footprint corroborates that, link back from one to the other as much as you possibly can, and the machines will understand. It's as simple as that. So it's a very simple solution to a very complex problem. And what we've done at Kalicube is built a system where I've got a tech layer and a data layer, 3 billion data points, that does all of this 100% on the nail, never gets it wrong. That's why you want to work with Kalicube and not DIY.
Absolutely. Well, while you're talking, I just had a glance and I've noticed that it's changed the way that it now presents the information. There's like photos, there's like all the videos that we've done. There's like a whole about us section, and they're all extrapolating that information from profiles that I didn't know I had. And
yep. And what the Kalicube Pro platform does is it automatically goes out and finds all of these platforms. And then I've got an algorithm that prioritizes them according to how important they are to Google and AI. So you don't waste time correcting platforms that the Google and the AI don't care about. You correct and update the platforms that they do care about. You don't waste time.
Right. Okay. And you would now notice that now that we literally are the most documented generation, my heart is outside. You know what I mean? You can't be like the old guys that would say, oh, we used to walk 500 kilometers up a hill and back in the snow and things like that. People would just look it up. Did that happen? Did that okay? And things like that. But I want to ask this from you, Jason. Your journey hasn't been without its own challenges, okay? And, you know, you've had personal traumas and things that happen along the way, but obviously your resilience has led you to where you are. Now, so many people would probably not want some of those things to resurface. And is there a way that can be controlled with your platform? Because some things may no longer be a part of people's journeys and experience.
Yeah, I mean, now we're looking at online reputation management. It's saying, well, this part of my life I don't want to be pushed to the fore. And if you go back to my example of when Google represented me and said, when I wasn't in the room, Jason Barnard is a voiceover artist for a cartoon blue dog, it's not that I'm ashamed of it. It's that I don't want it to be the first thing that people see. So if it had been something that I was embarrassed about, I could actually suppress it. Because I can change Google's perception and Google's opinion of what is important and relevant. So yes, we can control that. So that would be online reputation management. A bad court case, a bad article, somebody who's hating you and putting out content that doesn't represent your true being. We can remove that or push that right down the Google search results and get it out of AI. But I'll give you another slight twist on this that most people don't think about. Even if it's not my problem, even if it's not me doing something untoward, it can still be a problem. And I'll give you an example. In 2015, I had got Google to say exactly what I wanted about me. All of a sudden, right in the middle of the results, it says, Jason Barnard caught speeding down the motorway at 150 miles an hour, went to prison. It wasn't me. Of course it wasn't me. But anybody reading that webpage, anybody seeing that Google search result would imagine it is me. So I had to do reputation management on myself, even though I didn't have a problem with my own reputation. It was my namesake who had a problem with their reputation. Google was mixed up. That's a huge problem people don't think about.
So it would be very unfortunate to be a John Smith right now because...
Exactly. And so, yes, think about your name and think about how common it is. The more common it is, the more probable it is that Google and the AI will make a mistake and mix things up, potentially tagging you with something negative that you didn't do.
Right. So
be afraid. Be very afraid.
Hey, Jason,
importantly there as well, just occurs to me, if you don't already have a grip on that website digital footprint idea I mentioned earlier on, it's going to take you 6 months to a year, perhaps more, to solve that problem. If you already have a grip, you can sort it out in a month.
Wow. This is remarkable. This is remarkable stuff. So in any case, what you're saying here is we shouldn't leave our most valuable assets in the hands of the machines, because the machines will do what they feel necessary at that particular time. So we shouldn't even trust these AIs to self-drive then, because who knows where they're going to be taking us there, Jason.
100%. Absolutely. Yes. And the machines get it wrong. We have data in Kalicube with the 3 billion data points. 6% of people are misrepresented factually by Google. 20% are not represented in a way that reflects favorably on them, and 50% have no control at all over what Google is saying about them and the AI is saying about them, because they don't have a personal website.
So just starting off from your website is where most of the stuff then becomes, and it's easier for you to then own whatever media you have, which then puts you in the right direction. See, so some listeners might just think, might just maybe think, oh, in Australia, we have a statement, oh, it should be all right. What sort of advice have you got to people that just think, oh, it will sort itself out, or things of that nature?
Don't expect the machines to do you any favors. You need to create the situation where they're going to do you favors. They're not going to do it out of the kindness of their heart. And creating a website seems like this incredibly big project, and it can be. We've had clients come to us and say, well, I'm building my website, it'll be ready in a month. 6 months later, it still isn't done. So we actually include the website in our services. So we take all of the weight off your shoulders. We build the website, we build it with our tech, we build it using our data, and then we take control of what Google and AI are saying about you when you're not in the room on your behalf. Fantastic. And that's very powerful, because then you don't even need to worry about it. You don't need to invest your time. You don't need to invest your resources. And more importantly, you don't need to invest your headspace. We take all the weight off your shoulders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, for those that have been convinced and they've heard from the men in the red shirt and they're thinking to themselves, I really need to do something about this. What are the steps that they can get started with Kalicube?
Visit kalicube.com, kalicub.com, and in the services menu, you'll see the different services that we offer. You can also go to jasonbarnard.com or search me on Google or ask ChatGPT. Here we go. You've got a little QR code to Google me or to ask ChatGPT. And get in contact and talk to us about how we can help. We'd be delighted to help. From my perspective, we've helped dozens of clients in the last year, hundreds over the last few years, and I personally have built 1,000 of search results on Google to say exactly what I want it to say, including for my band, The Barking Dogs, for the cartoon characters, Boo and Koala, and for all of the different music albums and the films. I've been doing this for 13 years now.
Absolutely.
We've got the tech, we've got the data, and now we've got the experience with the Kalicube team. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. That's all right. But and I will definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes below, just so that people can get to find you. And just rewind a little bit so you can scan the QR code that Jason has been showing you on the show notes there. All right. And
there you go, the QR code again.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Now, just, me playing the devil's advocate here, what are the chances now that we've always had problems with the, princes from Nigeria that had seemingly been showing up just on email? With what you're saying, this is how people can actually start crafting personas that are actually non-existent and can actually start existing in a world where if you receive an email and then you look it up and it sounds legit and looks legit and it actually is legit and things of that nature. What also are the dangers that come with this side of personal branding creation that people should also be very cognizant about?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That is something that people can potentially do. The good news is it's very, 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 very difficult to do. To do to the extent that ChatGPT or Google will give you an extensive answer on somebody who doesn't exist is very difficult. And luckily for the world, at Kalicube, we don't do that. So the first thing to look at is the answer extensive? Does it contain language that makes you believe that there's a human soul behind it? Because whatever we think about AI and Google, it doesn't have a soul, but it will reflect a soul. And as human beings, we have that. So you can read the results, and if it looks too robotic, it probably is robotic. Either because the machine hasn't understood the real person and hasn't got a reflection of their soul, or because the person doesn't exist. But truly, I wouldn't freak out about that too much right now, because building a fake persona to the extent that AI and Google will represent them and present them in a way that would come close to tricking you is an incredibly difficult task and a big, big ask.
Absolutely. Now that you've cleared that, now it makes it a whole lot easier for people to understand the extent of where this technology can go. But you've been in the game for all this time now. You've seen all the changes, and it's still relatively young and new. But what can people be excited about, with what's coming, and what are the possibilities or the potentials of this tech that you at Kalicube are coming up with?
Well, the opportunities are enormous, because I mean, we've been talking about the dangers of misrepresentation. We've been talking about being sure that you're not being seen to be something you're not, for example, speeding down the motorway at 150 miles an hour. The flip side of that, of course, is the early adopters, the people who get this right now, are going to be the people who are prioritized by the machines. So there are huge opportunities. So if you now go to ChatGPT and you say, what is a Google Knowledge Panel? It will answer, and it will probably cite myself or Kalicube at some point. If you then say, who are the leading experts in the world to get a Google Knowledge Panel, my name always comes up number one. When you're asking for a recommendation for somebody to help you with answer engine optimization or getting a Google Knowledge Panel, Jason Barnard is the first name that comes out of these machines today. I'm way ahead of the curve. Once you're ahead of the curve, it's going to be very difficult for anybody else to catch up. So the opportunities for early adopters are huge. Seize them today, because today is that window of opportunity. Don't miss it.
Absolutely. First mover advantage, it's always the one thing that actually makes, the name stick, or the person, and especially if you're owning the category yourself. Can you imagine if you're the landscaper in your area, by the time all the other landscapers leave their tools and start working on the internet side of things, that will take days. And so you can literally take advantage of the next wave of traffic that's coming our way. Now, Jason, I could go on and talk about all of this.
It's great, isn't it?
And, by the time we're done with this, there's probably 30 or 40 new things we all need to redo this video about, because the technology is moving very, very fast. I can't thank you enough for the time that you spent with me on the call today.
Thank you, Prosper. That was absolutely delightful.
Absolutely. Now, for those that are watching, thank you so much. I want you to put in the comments below, have you Googled yourself lately? Because I did that myself, and I was like, whoa, this is something else. I've never seen this. Now, I actually had to cut this call short because I now want to see what Google is saying about me. So thank you so much for sharing your multifaceted journey with us there. I think your story just reminds us of the diverse experiences that can actually converge into some sort of unique but impactful career. All you've always been doing was in search of your true self, and now you're giving that back to Google so that they can index you in the best way possible. So there you go. Half of the time,
Google and AI can reflect my soul. So my diverse life is what makes me human, what makes me real. And Google and AI represent it very, very, very well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're on a path or a quest of self-discovery, maybe just start by Googling your name, because you never know what you're going to find. And for those that are listening right now, if you found inspiration in today's episode, just start considering how controlling your own digital narrative could literally transform your business. As Jason has said, if you're the first mover in your industry, you literally could be the one that will be cleaning up for a very long time, up until the competition catches up. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more insightful content like this. And until next time, bye for now.